Good afternoon. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Peter Reid, Zahir Bayat, Nellie Volport, Dylan Reid, and our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Nicole Ivanov. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, while others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of a decision of a committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out in the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and the committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation to the committee on the application. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room first and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Secretary, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any deferral requests for this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and panel members. There is a deferral request for this afternoon, and that file is item number 23, municipal address of 91 Barton Avenue, file number A0451/24TEY.
Great, thanks very much. We will resume with item number 19.
And through you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, pardon me, I'm not finished?
Just for the record, there's no minutes to adopt this afternoon and no files to be closed. And we can ask if there's any declarations of interest.
Thank you. There are no declarations of interest.
All right, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification for this afternoon's agenda regarding item 19, 19A, which is the consent application for 349A and 349B Oakwood Avenue, file number B0018/24TEY. That is actually a delegated consent application, given it is a technical severance with existing easements, and that has been rendered for decision by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer and is not before the members to decide today. That was just placed on the agenda in error, but it was decided today by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, who rendered the decision to approve the technical severance with standard conditions, standard consent conditions, and engineering and construction services conditions. So just the minor variance files, 19B and C, are before you this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll proceed with item 19B and C. 19B is 349B Oakwood Avenue, parts 1, 2, and 3, and this is an application that confirms that the existing two-story mixed-use detached building will be maintained and unaltered. There is one variance with respect to lot frontage. On 19C, 349A Oakwood Avenue, parts 4, 5, and 6. Similarly, the existing two-story mixed-use attached building will be maintained and unaltered, and there is one variance before us with respect to front lot frontage. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a copy of the draft R plan, which is noted has already been approved. Cover letter from the agent, an arborist report. There is email correspondence from community planning and transportation services, and there is a staff report from engineering services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no registered speakers to this item, and we have the agent online.
Good morning, good afternoon, sorry. I am Isabella Magetto from Humphreys Planning Group. We are the agent representing the owners of these units. If there's any questions, I will answer them to the best of my ability, but I don't believe there's anything too deep here.
No, thank you. I think we'd agree this is a technical variance, and given that the severance has already been approved, I think if you're okay, we'll just take this straight into committee.
That's okay with me.
Okay. Anyone want to make, is it here?
Sure. Just a quick question before we do both in one.
Yes, I think we can.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to move the various applications, various 19B and 19A.
19C.
So is it 19C? Thank you, 19C. And I don't believe any questions that are attached at all.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Bayek. Can I have a seconder? Mr. Reed, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 20. 16 Beechwood Crescent. The purpose of this application is to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with a front porch, 2 second-story front balconies, 2 second-story rear balconies, as well as a 3rd-story rooftop deck. The existing 1.5-story detached dwelling will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the minutes from the February 9th, 2022 public hearing and the materials submitted for consideration. Copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received May 24th. Staff reports from Urban Forestry and the TRCA. An advisory report from Metrolinx and correspondence in opposition from 14 Beechwood Crescent. Okay.
And through the chair, ravine and natural feature protection as well.
Thank you. I missed that one. Okay. Is this Ms. Evangelista?
Yes, through the chair, we have one registered speaker in opposition for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 16 Beechwood Crescent. I did initially want to proceed with today's hearing. However, TRCA has some concerns with this application, and the TRCA technician is away. So unfortunately, we were not able to resolve their concerns prior to today. So I would like to ask for a deferral.
Sure, but we've got TRCA's report in our package.
And through the chair, TRCA is recommending deferral of this application as they do have concerns. Staff has included the report on the screen as well.
I also point out that forestry is recommending refusal of several variances.
Is this in the supplemental? Sorry, the TRCA stuff. Do I have the wrong file here? Yeah, I'm just looking in my package though.
Through the chair, I believe staff...
That's the 2022.
Yes.
That's right, that's the 22 stuff. So they subsequently have...
Yes, so on this screen, we can see the recommendations where TRCA is saying, based on the comments provided within their memo, TRCA staff recommend deferral of minor variance application to allow for further consultation between TRCA and the proponent to address the above noted comments. Should the committee choose not to defer their decision, then TRCA staff recommend that the committee refuse the application.
Gotcha. I must have missed that. Apologies. Okay. All right, so that's your obvious reason for seeking a deferral is to try and resolve those outstanding issues?
You got it.
Okay.
The only other comment, my apologies for interrupting. I heard that there was RNFP comments too, but I don't see those on AIC.
Can we
Am I missing it?
Hang on a sec. Let's see if we can find it and pull it up. Yeah,
Through the chair, staff is pulling up the memo from Ravine on the screen, and it refers to Ravine condition number 1, submission of a complete application for permit to injure or remove privately owned trees located within ravine protected area, and complete application for a permit to place or dump, fill, or refuse or alteration of grade on any land within a ravine protected area.
Right, I believe that, yeah, that goes back to the initial submission quite some time ago, and I believe we have addressed that, so. But I will confirm, thank you for bringing that up. But today, it's mostly, it is to deal with TRCA.
Dylan?
I was just wondering if you'd seen the forestry report recommending refusal of variances 2, 7, 8, and 9.
So just to give you a little bit of history here, it's very unfortunate the owner hasn't had much luck with this particular application. The comments that forestry made, I believe, go back to 2022, 2023. All of that has been addressed, and TRCA had also all been addressed. However, the previous designer passed away, and we had to start from scratch again. So with the changes, and the application technician at the TRCA has changed, so now we are starting all new with fresh eyes. But all of these comments relating to TRCA, forestry, RNFP will all be addressed.
Okay, that's great. Yes, Zahir.
They also have planning staff report.
Is your mic on?
Sorry. There's this planning staff report as well. It's dated February 2022. And that's an old one as well. So presumably that's now no longer in effect because it's asking for refusal.
Yes, that's again 2022. We've made many of changes from 2022. And planning staff at this time, even with the application that is in front of you today, They had no concerns and have no concerns with the application that is in front of you today. However, again, I repeat, my main concern is TRCA. I have to get them on board and make them happy too also. I've dealt with all the other parties, forestry, RNFP, planning, transportation. So now we just have to deal with the new application technician for TRCA.
Okay, thanks. So I think you'll forgive us. Our confusion is a little bit that this application and our materials didn't include any new stuff. It was basically giving us the application materials from the last time. So
That was a mistake, and there was a later version that was sent with all the information.
so I'm out of date. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Ida, as you hear, I'm the one that's out of sync here. Okay, so let's take this into committee and deal with the deferral.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Oh, we
there
have
is
a speaker.
Yes.
Pardon me.
Yes, probably the neighbor.
Okay.
Berta, you have been unmuted.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I had raised the concerns on the application that was made with a couple of other neighbors.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
as well.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. If you could give us your name and address, and we're not going to be dealing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, ma'am. If you give us your name and address to begin with.
Bertha Acevedo, 14 Beechwood Crescent.
And we're not dealing with the merits of the proposal today because the applicant has requested a deferral to resolve some outstanding issues. My question to you is whether you agree to a deferral or not.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. All right, let's take this into committee. Anyone? Is it here? I thought your hand first.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion to defer this application so it can be dealt with appropriately.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Reed with a comment.
Yes, to deal with the TRCA issues, but also to get a new report from forestry indicating that they no longer have any refusals, because at the moment the outstanding report from forestry is that we should refuse several of the variances, and I think that needs to be, we need to have a new report showing that they no longer feel that way.
That they've been cleared, any conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. All right, motion to approve the request for deferral, seconded by Mr. Reed, by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, or for deferral, pardon me. My apologies to the committee for being confused. Okay, item number 21, 568 St. Claren's Ave. This is an application to construct a new, or a two-story ancillary building, a detached garage with storage space above in the rear yard abutting the laneway. The committee has before it copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received June 24th, 8 photographs of trees on the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, second covering letter from the agent dated June 24th, decision number A0734/22TEY affecting the subject property. We have correspondence from Transportation Services and an advisory report from Metrolinx. We have the agent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent online.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering Associates, and I'm representing the owner.
Okay, I think we might benefit from a short presentation on this application, please.
Absolutely. So we were here in 2022, and actually the original application was for a laneway suite. But very unfortunately, when we came to OVC, we were short of 4 centimeters for the required 0.9 meters for emergency access. There was no bend and twist. This was a hard number, 0.9, and we couldn't meet it. We tried to somehow partially demolish the existing main building wall, but that was not feasible. So at the time, the owner decided, and we actually did, we put an application for a second unit in the basement, and their daughters, instead of moving to the laneway suite, end up to move to the basement. Because they lose the basement for storage, now they came to Plan B, and they asked, can we do a garage with some storage? And that's when we submit these original drawings, pretty much exact same drawings. However, community planning had some concerns. We had great conversations with Mr. John Homsey, the assistant planner. We did some slight modifications to the envelope of the building, so it doesn't have such a big mass for a garage, but it somehow mimics exactly what was previously approved by you, Mr. Chair. You were part of it along Mr. Peter Reed. This is somehow a very straightforward application for the situations that we actually have today, where some garages, they're going to look like laneway suites and some laneway suites will look like garages. It's a mix and match. And again, for sake of uniformity and to fit the neighborhood, we did our best. Planning was on our side. Both neighbors, adjacent neighbors are on side. Very unfortunately, we're not able to submit the letters of support on time, but they are on board. And I'll be open to any questions.
So your proposal is basically inverting what you got approval for previously?
Very, very similar. It's just the second floor, instead of having the micro apartment, we actually put it for storage because we convert the existing main building basement into a second dwelling unit, which actually took away the storage that the main building owners had for themselves.
And was it the same height? So it was very close to being the same height as what you had received approval for before?
Yes, correct. It's everything the same. So planning was just concerned with the massing, and I gave them a couple examples of similar situations that were approved at committee in certain vicinity areas. And we come to the conclusion that the best thing was to actually do the 45-degree angle at the back towards the laneway. And they were in acceptance. They said, this is it. And here we are. Planning was on board, and they actually liked the application.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? Sahir?
I suppose I was just a little concerned that this not become a laneway suite. So I wonder if a condition might be applied to indicate that this unit will not be habitable. Would that be acceptable to the agent?
I think
Absolutely. With all honesty, this is just for storage, and we are good to go with putting a condition of no laneway suite.
There's no occupancy.
No occupancy. Yeah. Thank you.
Through the chair, apologies, can we just pause for 1 minute? We're having some technical difficulties, so we just want to make sure that we're being heard properly. So if we can just hang on for a few minutes, thank you.
Hang on a sec, Mr. Lopez.
Absolutely.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can continue with this item. I think it's been resolved.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. To the applicant or the agent, I'm just comparing what you've shown in that photo that you included against your drawings, and the main change I see is that the second floor has a sloped roof now in the drawings, but not in reality. Is that correct?
Actually, through you, Mr. Chair, we actually have a sloped roof to both sides. So initially, the sloped roof, the slender roof, was just towards the main building, and it was a flat roof all the way to the back to the laneway. And again, to decrease the massing and just keep sort of the same envelope, of course, we're going to lose some headroom. But the main concern was at least to keep some of the headroom, so at least a person can walk upstairs while storing their storage items. And yes, it's actually roofed on both sides. It's roofed towards the main building and sloped roof as well towards the laneway.
Okay.
So it's about one third sloped, one third flat, and another 1/3 at the rear sloped.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so I was looking at the wrong drawing. I see the drawing now. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll be quite honest with you. I misread the cover letter. I thought he was putting residential unit in the basement of the garage. It's in the basement of the main structure. So this is basically a 2-story garage in the rear for storage.
Correct, Mr. Chair. It's just to try to recover for the storage that was lost in the basement. So ideally, this would be a beautiful laneway suite, but because, again, of some OBC compliance that we tried to push it every single way, it couldn't make it happen. So we switched gears in the meantime. Within these 2 years, we got a permit that actually is now closed, and our people in the basement, and now the storage will be granted, I hope, to the garage.
Okay, any further questions? All right, we'll take it into committee. Yes, Nellie. Yes?
Sorry, I was not involved in the previous application, so I understand that you approved the laneway suite, but here we have, it's the garage. And frankly, I don't see the reason for a garage to amass so many variances. Basically, the height variance with the maximum stories. Here we have 2 stories. To me, it looks like a laneway suite still from the drawings, but I think in a total, all those variances, they are not minor, and I would not support this application.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the variances are triggered because it's now an ancillary building instead of a laneway suite. So as a laneway suite, it could have a height of 6 meters, but because it's an ancillary building, now it's triggered these additional variances. For me, given that basically this mass was already approved, I think that's okay, and I like that they've actually slope more of the roof now so that the massing will be reduced. This is kind of a way of enabling them to have built a suite in the basement while still having space to store stuff. So to me, given that basically this massing has already been approved, and that actually they've added some sloping that will reduce the impact. I think that it's a good proposal with the provision that Zahir pointed out, making sure that there's a condition that it not be used as I don't know what the phrasing is, but
Habitable. Habitable.
Habitable, they're not habitable. So.
Zahir?
Just add another little point. I think to Dylan's, Mr. Reed's points, I concur with him. I was also concerned about the soft landscaping, but site plan does indicate that all the walkways will be permeable, so that adds a little bit more credence to the soft landscape issue. And right, the roof is sloping on the 4 corners, so you'd have to be a very short person to be able to inhabit that space. I'm in support of this application.
Okay. All right, Peter?
Yeah, just to add one thing, I agree with both Dylan and Zahir's points, and I think that the applicant has shown goodwill, right? That they've actually changed the built structure to slope the roof on both sides. So that gives me some comfort. But this is a challenging one in that it brings up the as-built versus if we were seeing it just on plans. It's kind of hard to separate. But I agree. I think it's supportable.
Okay. I'll look for a motion.
Okay, I move that the variances be approved with the condition that the space is not be habitable.
Okay. Seconded by Mr. Mr. Dylan Reed moves approval with that condition. Peter Reed is seconding. All in favor? All opposed? That's me and Nellie opposed, so that motion carries. You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Okay. Item 22. 594 Bathurst Street. This is an application to alter the existing one-story ancillary building, a detached garage in the rear yard abutting a laneway by constructing a complete second-story addition to contain a one-car garage on the ground level with one laneway suite on the second story. The second story will have a skylight. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, covering letter from the agent. We have an email correspondence from Transportation Services. There are 11 form letters in support from various addresses on Bathurst Street. There is correspondence in opposition from 596 Bathurst and materials in opposition from 596 Bathurst. We have the agent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a registered speaker here in person, and we have the agent on the line.
Great. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Razzolini?
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee.
Hi. Name and address, please, for the record.
Marco Razzolini from Sakura Design, Inc., 94 Lakeshore Road East, Unit 201, Mississauga, Ontario.
Great, thank you. We have someone who wants to speak on this item, so we'll need a presentation, please.
Yes, no problem. So the application is to convert the existing single-story garage at 594 Bathurst Street into a laneway suite by adding a second floor. The proposal is to build the second floor directly on top of the existing footprint of the garage that sits there today. The bylaw does allow for an existing garage to be converted into a laneway suite by grandfathering in existing setbacks and built form. However, new additions we know would need to meet the new requirements of the zoning bylaw. To start with items 2, 3, and 4, these variances are all caused by that second floor addition being located directly over the existing single-story garage. Following the bylaw would push the second floor addition much closer to the lane or partially closer to the lane, greatly impacting the possibility of building a unit on the second floor. We have tried to mitigate the massing on neighboring properties by still designing the second floor with the angular plane and the permitted dormer. Just to go back to when we started working on the design with the client, we did explore options where we would remove the one-story bump out at the back of their existing dwelling so that we could have a bigger laneway suite as of right. We could probably build 5 feet closer to the houses if we had removed that structure and then followed the angular plane at that point. The owners didn't want to go through the additional cost of removing that bump out, and to simplify the construction, we're just proposing a pretty straightforward addition on top of that single-story garage. We believe that this solution is best for the owners from a cost perspective. It does have less of an impact on neighboring properties than if we had gone with the full proposal of removing the bump out. And it is adding value to the neighborhood by adding that additional rental unit. The first floor, the homeowners are hoping to still be able to park a car for themselves, be able to rent the unit above it, and sort of have that first floor as a little bit of a flexible space for storage for themselves and a bathroom that kind of connects into their backyard if they're working on cars or in the backyard for a barbecue, people can just jump into the powder room there, and then second story dedicated to the tenant. Yeah, the other two items, item one is a soft landscaping variance. That's an existing condition just based on the smaller yard where we're proposing to maintain the hard landscaping as is, again, to keep costs down. And then item 5 is for the skylight, which is to bring in additional natural light into the space. I'd be happy to answer any questions or address any questions from the neighbor as well.
Okay, so here.
Just one quick question. You mentioned the bump out at the back of the house. If that bump out had been removed, which you indicated is not going to be the case, would, if it had been removed, would variance number 1 disappear?
So we could probably eliminate all the variances other than the skylight variance. And we could actually build 5 feet closer to the house than what we're proposing today.
That's if the bump out had been removed.
If the bump out had been removed, and we had discussed it with the builder, and the cost it was a little bit too prohibitive, and so we're going with our second approach. I know it's not relevant because it's not what we're applying for, but it is to say like there is possibility to further increase the density on this property without going through the committee.
Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, we can have the registered speaker in person come up to the podium.
Okay. My name is Fanny Ng. I'm acting on behalf of my mother, 596 Bathurst Street. I just looked this over, and when I looked at the zoning bylaw, okay, I'm not really familiar with all this stuff like that. The zoning bylaw said the main house has to be, if it's less than 7.6 meters from the main house, the height is capped at 4 meters. They want to increase it to 6.21 meters. My understanding is, I think the maximum is 6 meters. And then it's also the zoning bylaw that no part of the ancillary building may penetrate the 45-degree angular plane projecting towards the rear lot. Now, if you looked at the survey that I submitted of our own property, you'll see that we have a first story, so that the distance between our first story and our garage would be 10 feet 9 inches, which is 3.76 meters. So if they were to build their addition or the ancillary building, then that basically would be very close to our backyard, and then they're actually overlooked into our backyard. So our main concern is the lack of privacy because they're so much closer now. And because of the increased height request that they want, that's going to have a negative impact on our privacy. That will have increased shadowing and shadowing effect on 596 Bathurst Street, the backyard. And that will limit the amount of sunshine on our small backyard. At 598, they already have this huge tree. So we already have problems with shade and getting amount of sunlight for growing vegetation. So if they 594 increases to 6 meters, that's going to have both sides are impacting us on both sides. So we're already having problems with sunshine from 598. If they increase their building to 6 meters, that's going to have a negative effect on the other side. And so that affects our ability to enjoy our backyard. And we should be able to enjoy the backyard, impact our privacy, and impacts the quality of life. Okay, so, and as to mention that there's letters of support, well, I saw the letters of support yesterday when I went on the internet. And if you look at the letters of support, there's like 8, 3 of which are across the street. We live on the even side. The other 3 are the odd side. I don't see how, when they build the ancillary building on the even side, how it's going to have any impact, or why they would even be. Of course, they're going to support it. It doesn't have any impact on them. And we looked at the other 4 supporting people, 2 of which are tenants. They're not even the landlords. Like if you look at because I went to the assessment and I looked at the names of the of the 5 on the even side, which I live on the 596, 3 of which were actually property owners assigned. The other ones are tenants. The same with across the street. They have 3 supporting, 4 supporting, but then 3 of them are in fact tenants. They're not the actual landlords or the property owners. So my understanding is the city sends out these letters to property owners, and because it impacts the property owners. So I'm just sort of wondering why that these consent, the support is from tenants, because they don't own the property, they don't have skin in the game, right? Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So although you have support, they're not necessarily from the property owners. And that's just basically my concern is the fact that they're going to raise it to 6 meters. We're very close already of 3.26 meters. So that's going to have the shadowing, the loss of light, and the loss of privacy.
Okay.
Okay, that's a bit. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Panel, any questions? No? Thank you very much. We'll go back to the agent, and he'll respond to some of your concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Razzolini.
Oh, sorry, I was just muted there. If we can bring up the cover letter, page 2 of that, there's a diagram on there. Yeah, and sorry, just to address the letters of support, I have been to other C of A hearings where tenants have come out in opposition. So we thought it would be respectful to also reach out to the tenants to get their input on the application. But to jump into the planning and architectural rationale here, looking at this diagram, that dashed red line there is the setback for a 2-story dwelling. Beyond that red line, we're permitted to build up to 6.3 meters. That's that blue hatched area. So all of that is as of right. We can build that. What we're asking for is essentially just this yellow area on the left side there that is above the 4 meters and outside of the angular plane. So the impact, if we were to build as of right, I think it would still have an impact on the neighboring property. We have tried to mitigate the shadow concerns on the rear yard by still conforming to the angular plane, even though the setback is reduced. The other thing I would note is, I sort of touched on this at the beginning, but that on the left side of this image, the existing 2.5 dwelling, right, there's the sort of bump out sort of depicted there. That's the area that we had discussed removing. And if that was the case, if we were taking the setback from the 2-story portion, that red line now could actually be moved 5 feet forward from the blue area. So much closer to the house. So we tried to go with an approach that works for the owners. They're able to get additional living space. They're able to get their rental unit. And it's a much smaller footprint that could be built here. And would have a much greater impact on the neighbor's backyard. I'm sympathetic to the neighbor. There's a lot of development that's happening, and this, I think, is just sort of the way the city is heading with allowing laneway suites in the rear yard. The setback, when calculated, I know she touched on this as well, about being from the back of her house. The way the zoning bylaw is written, it's not from the neighboring properties, from the property, it's from the house on the property. So that setback wouldn't be a factor for determining the built form on the subject site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? I don't think we have any questions, so we'll take this into committee. Who wants to start? So here?
Thank you, Chair. I'll start the ball rolling. I was curious about this particular application, so I did go down to the site to visit yesterday. Drove down the laneway at the back. I'm sure this will be a very nice laneway structure, and the rendering in the covering letter presents what I would describe as a reasonable request. My concern really is that in this particular part of the city, it's a very densely built up city. It's part of the old area. So when it comes to variance number 1, I have a problem with that one. That's why I was asking about that bump out. I think had that bump out been removed, perhaps that variance wouldn't even be requested, as well as variance number 2. So I think that for me becomes an issue, as it's too close to the main structure at this point in time. I don't think privacy will be a major issue because the window that's presented is actually right smack in the center of the structure. So I don't think that will be a major issue. But I do have concerns about variance 1 and 2. I'm not sure what my colleagues.
Sure, I'll jump in. I support the application. I think the main reason being that one-story bump out at the back that the measurement is calculated from. If that weren't there, you'd have a separation of 8.5 meters, which is more than the bylaw requires. And additionally, that bump out is only half the width of the lot. So I think because of that, as the agent said, I think if that one-story bump out were gone, then this would basically be an as of right. And so I see the impacts of that separation distance really being limited because of the size of that bump out. So I support it.
Okay, anyone else? Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is the soft landscaping is an existing condition. So I don't feel like that's something to me, that's not a major issue. But I think the other thing is that this is a very dense area. So I feel like it's a bit more normal in this area to have a bit of additional space like this and the structures being close together. So I feel like in this instance, in addition to what my colleague said, there's a bit more leeway perhaps for having a laneway suite that's a little closer to the main house. And I think, I mean, obviously this is a location that's really attractive, so it's great to have additional rental space in this area in particular. And I do sympathize with the neighbor in terms of the privacy, but I take the point that if the main house was just slightly differently configured, it wouldn't really be an issue. So, I mean, there are going to be laneway suites with that distance from, so I think that overall it is supportable.
Okay. All right. I would agree with both you and both the Reeds on this one. It's definitely it's juxtaposition relative to amenities and transit and commercial activities of the kind of neighborhoods that we need to continue to support additional intensification. I don't think that this is incrementally going to be any additional impact beyond what is pretty darn close to as of right. So I would agree. So motion, Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, and I do want to just add also for the neighbor, thanks for coming down. And there will be impacts on the neighbor. I understand that, but I do believe that this is in keeping with the spirit and the purpose and intent of the bylaw. So for the reasons I outlined before, I move approval of this application without condition.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Reed. Yep, okay, all in favor? Opposed? Mr. Byatt is opposed. The motion passes. You have your approval. Thank you. And yes, ma'am, thank you for coming down. All right, we move on to item number Item number 23, 91 Barton Avenue. This is an application to construct a new 3-story, 9-unit apartment building with front and an east side porch, rear and east side ground floor decks and stairs, front and rear basement walkouts, front and rear second and third story balconies, 2 east side third story balconies, and 2 rooftop patios. Also to construct a new 2-story, 2-unit ancillary building containing 2 laneway suites in the rear yard abutting Chamanga Lane. The existing ancillary building will be demolished. Committee has before it copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Revised site plan received July 2nd. 2 photographs of trees on the subject property. Covering letter from the agent, decision number A0157/24TEY affecting the subject property. Email correspondence from the agent received July 2nd, and correspondence from the solicitor received June 10th. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry, Community Planning, and Transportation Services, and a follow-up staff report from Community Planning dated July 5th. There is support, correspondence and support from someone from Seton Village, Hannah Suxtoff. 23 form letters in support signed by owners, occupants of 745 Manning, 38, 42, 61, 80, 84, 98, and 184 Barton Avenue, 750 Markham Street, 703, 769, 773, and 781 Manning, 734, 742, 755, 767, 777, 79, 799 Euclid Avenue, and 68 Vermont. And 1 form letter in support from 743 Manning. We have correspondence in opposition from 92 Barton, 762 Euclid, 90A Barton, 89 Barton, Justin Thompson Herzog, no address. Materials in opposition from 749 Manning, and subsequent correspondence in opposition from 90, 96, 87 Barton, 768 Euclid, and R.I. Sinclair with no address provided, and Laura Nussbaum, no address provided.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we also have the late deferral request by the agent submitted. And we have various registered speakers on the line in interest and opposition, and the agent on the line.
Okay. If we could have the agent, please.
Amber?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Ms. Stewart.
Good morning, afternoon, Mr. Chair. How are you?
Fine, thank you. If you could give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, it is Amber Stewart, and the address is 70 Plunkett Road, Unit 6, Toronto, Ontario, M9L2J5.
Okay, you are seeking a deferral. If you could share with us what your reasoning is for that.
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you very much. And as you will no doubt recall, this application was is similar to a previous application that was submitted in April. And there was no request at that time. Transportation Services actually was supportive of the proposal at that time. And in this application, sir, last week we received a staff report which requested a conveyance adjacent to the laneway of 22 centimeters. And you know, it's unfortunate that this request came at such a late time, but it is what it is, and these things happen. So yes, as I indicated, that report was filed last week. My client and I have both reached out and spoken to Transportation Services staff, have discussed their comments and their concerns, and have agreed upon certain revisions to be incorporated into the plans to address those comments. You may have seen that there is a follow-up email from Ms. Helen of Transportation Services on July 8th. And she has outlined the requests of that department in that email correspondence. So the bottom line is, Mr. Chair, that we are requesting a deferral in order to permit the time for those revisions to be made, reviewed by Transportation Services, obtain an updated zoning notice and a new public hearing notice to be circulated, because it will cause some changes to the variances with the conveyance being implemented.
Okay, thank you.
And in the event that I'm going to be muted, I hope you don't mind me commenting, but I just wanted to let you know that I know there were technical difficulties earlier from WebEx online. We can hear everybody very well except for Mr. Byatt. I thought I'd let you know that.
Thank you. We will take appropriate action to punish Mr. Byatt.
Okay.
Ms. Stewart, in the materials, we did note that this application is also tracking towards TLAB. Do you have a date for TLAB?
Yes, we do, sir. There is a date in September, and what we had indicated to staff is that we were maintaining that date in the event that it was needed, but the hope was that this application would be submitted and heard prior to that TLAB date. That may still be a possibility based on my discussions with Committee of Adjustment staff. So, sir, I can indicate to you that our intention is still to have this matter come to committee and be heard before that TLAB hearing occurs, even if it means we have to defer the TLAB hearing. And then if there were to be an approval of the subsequent application, we'd have no concern with the condition requiring that TLAB appeal to be withdrawn, because obviously the intent is to proceed with this application.
Okay. Thank you. Panel, any questions of the agent? Okay, thank you. We will proceed to hear from those folks, I guess, online, or is anyone in person?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's all online registered speakers. We can start with the first address. Is the resident from 750 Euclid Avenue on the line?
Apologies. I had not reviewed the material in a way that I would be able to provide any comment at this time. I will say I was confused.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry for interrupting. If you could just give us your name and address, please.
Certainly. It's Elizabeth Rayel at 750 Euclid Avenue.
Great, thanks. And before you start, because the applicant has requested a deferral, we're not going to deal with the merits of the case today. All we really want to hear from folks on the line is whether you agree with the request for a deferral or not.
I do.
Great, thank you very much. If we could move to the next speaker.
The resident from 759 Manning Avenue on the line.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. If you can give us your name and address, please.
Sure. Hi, guys. It's Laura Nussbaum at 759 Manning, and all good for the deferral.
That's great. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Next speaker.
The resident from 747 Manning Avenue.
Mr. Mosberg.
Hi, Mrs. Mosberg.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Burkhard, are you there?
Yes. Good morning. Sorry, you were going away. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the deferral.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, through the chair, next registered speaker at 89 Barton Avenue. We actually have two speakers listed. So we have Lauren Fantine and Robert Sinclair, 89 Barton Avenue.
Hi, this is Lauren Fantine at 89 Barton Avenue, and I agree with the deferral
request. Great. Is Mr. Sinclair there as well?
I believe at a different, yes, but not with me.
Is, okay.
He's on the line. He's on the line.
Oh,
in the-
okay.
in the
All right.
Space, yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Robert Sinclair from 89 Barton Avenue, and I also agree with the deferral.
Great, thank you. Next speaker.
90 Barton Avenue. Malka Narol, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, and I support the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
87 Barton Avenue. Gail Thompson.
Gail, are you there?
I can't unmute the.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Gail Thompson is showing online, but we're not hearing any response.
Yeah, it seems he has technical issues.
Okay. You want to try and give her a call? I think it's probably fair to say that people are
I
supporting.
will try to call him again.
Okay. Just hang on a sec. We have one final speaker that we need to try and connect with.
Gail, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I can.
If you could give us your name and address, please.
Absolutely. It's Gail Thompson, 87 Barton Avenue, and I agree to, we will address this matter at a later date.
Great, thanks very much. Is that it?
Okay, bye.
Through the chair, that is the end of the registered speakers.
Do we need, can I just have Miss Stewart back, please? Before we go into committee. Ms. Stewart, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Could you just share with us, I think the panel would benefit from just a hearing about the public meeting or the meeting you had where the counselor attended. Were you there, or do you know what transpired there?
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. I was not there, but if there are some questions, I may be able to answer them. If there's something specific that you'd like to know.
I think panel would probably be interested, was there consensus at that meeting? Was there still, did people kind of walk away still feeling uncomfortable? There's still a lot of letters of opposition that have been submitted, so I'm assuming the latter.
Sir, again, I wasn't there, so I can only make comments based on my understanding. What I can certainly tell you is that there is not consensus. There are a number of different interests that different neighbors, and I'll say different individuals who are differently affected by this proposal have raised. So, Mr. Chair, I can tell you that my client has made a number of revisions to attempt to address many of those concerns, and I'm hopeful that some of the changes that will come out of this transportation discussion may address more of the concerns. But it's just the nature of the case and the nature of the interests affected. I'm not sure I envision it coming to a consensus, but we're doing our best, sir.
Great, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Panel, let's take this into committee. Does anyone want to move Mr. Reed?
Sure. Thanks, Chair. I think this is reasonable. The request by transportation came late, and the applicant has shown a willingness to work with them and within this process, and there's obviously support for this deferral. So I move deferral of the application.
Okay, can I have a seconder, Mr. Byatt? So approval of the request for deferral, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? Okay, you have your deferral. Thank you. on to item number 24. 54 Athlone Road. And this is an application to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing front and rear one-story additions, complete second and third-story additions, front and rear third-story decks. There will be a total of 2 residential dwellings, which is a duplex on this lot. Also, the existing detached garage will be demolished and 1 parking space pad will be installed in the rear yard. Committee has before it copy of the plan of site survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of trees on the subject property, staff reports from Urban Forestry, and email correspondence from Urban Forestry, Urban Forestry, July the 8th. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, hi, I'm Angus Skeen. I'm the architect and agent for the application. I'm happy to make a presentation. There are no staff reports filed, and there is no input from any neighbors.
I think we're going to need a presentation, but I think also we're going to need a little bit of clarification. You've probably been contacted with respect to a couple variances that are here, variances number 2 and 3, which will be quite honest with you, kind of confuse us a little bit.
Yep, for sure.
And maybe you could share with us your insights on what these 2 are and how they affect your application.
Yeah, these are variances that touch on the multiplex thing. So we're in the early days of it, and maybe the wording could be clearer. They apply to duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. And in the RD zone, they grant 19 meters in length and 19 meters in depth, but only if your lot falls under one of 2 qualifications, which are called A and B in the bylaw. Now, staff have reviewed the issue, and they have some wording for the decision that is perhaps clearer, that clarifies the issue. But in terms of explaining, I'm more than happy. I made a little diagram showing you the 2 types of lots. I don't know, this is kind of old school. I don't know if this thing still works, but I could bring it up and walk you through it.
I'm sorry. In this age of technology, I think we can't do that any longer.
You know, here's the simplest way I can put it is what they say is like, look, in the RD zone, we're going to give you 19 meters for your duplex, triplex, or fourplex, but only if the lot bears certain qualities. And then they give 2 options of lot. And I even have to look to remind myself, but I'll try and make it really simple. It all turns on how wide the lot is and how long the lot is. So if your lot has a frontage of less than 10 meters, okay, but more than 36 meters, okay, so if you're a little narrow but kind of longer than the norm, you're allowed to have 19 meters. In our case, our frontage is a wafer over 10 meters, so we don't qualify under that. The second option is, hey, if your lot has a frontage of more than 10 meters, and by the way, if you're lucky enough to have a lot that's more than 10 meters and more than 40 meters, knock yourselves out. You can have 19 meters. We don't qualify for that either because I think the length of our lot is 39.99. We're not quite 40. And so it leaves the zoning examiner. I recalled when I was contacted, I remember speaking to Brandon, the zoning examiner, about this. He has no choice but to say, look, like you can't have 19 meters because your lot doesn't qualify. So in the zoning review, it sort of has an explanatory note under both the length and the depth variance. But it's confusing for people if they haven't addressed it before. Does that help?
It does, and we have talked about some alternative. It just seems weird that there's no standard against which the application that you have before us meets. Like I think the variance is worded weirdly because it doesn't say normally you'd be allowed 17, for example, and you're going to 18. It's just an unusual thing. But
That's correct.
I totally get what you're saying. Dylan, you have a comment?
Just to be clear, so does that mean that, in fact, you're only allowed 17 meters?
No. Yes, that's why we're here for a variance. Our variance for length is 18.89. You see, because we're over the 17, right? And our variance for depth.
So, like, because you don't fit into either of those things, you default to 17 meters. Is that correct? Like by like the standard.
You see, the writing here. I'll clarify first off. We are we're seeking the two variances, 2 and 3. Number 2 is length. We're at 18.89 because we can't use those duplex gifts,
I'm
right?
just asking because I'm wondering if we can simplify the zoning notice just by simply saying the maximum permitted building length is 17 meters.
It gets a little dodgy because the way the bylaw is written is length refers to a residential building, which can include a multiplex, but depth, which is our number 3, refers only 17 meters is at a detached house, which is definitely not us.
Oh.
You get what I mean?
Through the chair, I think for an abundance of caution, staff have the zoning review from the buildings department on the screen. I think to be on the safe side, it's best to reference exactly what the examiner has on their notice rather than add 17 meters as a permission, which was not cited on the notice, and in terms of numbers, maybe increasing the severity of the variance of what went out to the public. So I think to be safe, we would need to amend variance 2 and 3 to clearly include A and B, which has this definition or this criteria of the lot depth and the lot frontage. So it would be a little wordy, but
Yeah, I was just trying to understand.
yeah.
It is weird. Well, I guess you don't have anyone that's opposed to this.
No.
You're asking for 18.89 in length. Regardless of whether the bylaw is 17 or 19, that's what your request is. So I guess that's really what we need to decide amongst ourselves, whether that's a reasonable given your application. So
Sure.
I think maybe if we look at it from that lens, that might be helpful. And do we have revised wording that you guys are comfortable with, or would you rather stick with what you've got?
So through the chair, we can't leave the wording that was on the notice because it doesn't include the criteria, which is the full variance. As the notice reads right now, it would actually comply. So we have to, the correct.
Probably why you didn't get any opposition.
So the correct section was quoted, but the elaborative details, if you will, of this criteria was not included. So I think we would have to add that. So if variance number 2 and 3 are amended for clarity purposes, we would include the criteria as per the zoning notice, which states a duplex may have a maximum permitted building length of 19 meters if the lot A has a lot depth of 36 meters or greater and a lot frontage less than 10 meters, or B has a lot depth of 40 meters or greater and a lot frontage of 10 meters or greater. In this case, the lot has a depth of less than 40 meters, a frontage greater than 10 meters, and the altered duplex will have a building length of 18.89 meters. That would be for variance 2 if the agent is agreeable.
Comfortable with that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the amendment for number 2. And for number 3, again, if the agent is in agreeance, we would quote again from the zoning review to add the clarity that a duplex may have a maximum permitted building depth of 19 meters if the lot A has a lot depth of 36 meters or greater and a lot frontage of less than 10 meters. Or B has a lot depth of 40 meters or greater and a lot frontage of 10 meters or greater. In this case, the lot has a depth less than 40 meters, a lot frontage greater than 10 meters, and the altered duplex will have a depth of 18.95 meters, if the agent agrees.
I agree.
Well, that's great. This is going to be studied by graduate students for years to come.
You know what, though, too? Like, I'm sure we've been at it a while. I'm so glad I came in person.
Yeah, well, actually, we are too. Thank you.
I don't know how, staff have been very helpful, and I'm so glad I'm here. That's all.
You've seen the forestry reports?
Probably, yeah. I would expect I have.
There
Probably
is
requiring
an
tree
advisory.
protection. Yeah, of a city tree, perhaps. Sorry, amidst all the hubbub, I've lost the plot on that.
We want to pull the forestry
Yes,
report
through
up,
the
please?
chair, staff
Oh,
will
yeah.
put the comments from forestry on the screen. It might be in the late materials, so July 8th.
Oh, maybe I have.
It was actually an email, I believe, where forestry staff clarified their memo to say, per the memo, there are no conditions requested on this application nor tied to approval. I didn't feel any urban forestry conditions were applicable to the requested variances. However, the project design itself will require tree injury permits, hence the advisory memo. So there
I must
are.
say too, that might be because I've gotten into the habit of putting the tree hoarding on the site plans as I put them into the committee process now, so they can see that the tree hoarding is coming.
Panel, any other questions? Nellie?
Just to reiterate, what's the depth of that plot?
The depth of the lot? Yeah, give me a sec. I'll just have a quick look at the survey. 39.12 on the north side and 39.1. So we're like, you could say we're 0.9 short of, 40 feet, which is 3 feet. We're just, yeah.
So here, are you okay with the screening?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, thank you. We'll take this into committee. Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, for all the confusion, really it's effectively quite a minor, the variances are really quite minor. And it's a great project. It's cleverly designed and adds an extra bit of housing, some rental housing, as well as a large new house for a family or something. So I move that we approve this. And the forestry is just advisory, so we don't need to have any conditions.
Okay.
Through the chair as amended.
As amended, right, thank you.
Motion to approve the
Thank you,
amended
yes,
application.
definitely as
by
amended.
Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir, and thank you for that little spot of excitement.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Number 25, 139 Priscilla Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing complete second story and a partial third story additions, a front canopy, and a rear ground floor deck, and a rear roof deck above the second story. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, and a Metrolinx advisory report.
Through the chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Good afternoon.
Priscilla Avenue.
I'm sorry, we didn't catch that. Do you want to repeat that, please?
I said my name is Andre Matvichuk, and my address is 139 Priscilla Avenue.
Okay, thanks very much. Panel, presentation?
I think so.
You okay?
I'm sorry, is that me? This is my first time doing something like this. So
I was sorry, apologize. I was just asking my panel members whether they needed a presentation on this application or not. No, I think we're okay. There are a number of variances, but it seems like a fairly straightforward application. Panel members have read all the material. We're comfortable with what we have read. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
No.
Oh, hold on, we have a question.
Question. I was just looking at the side elevations, and of course there's a balcony on the 3rd floor, rear, I believe. Am I correct? It is the rear, not the front. I don't know if there's going to be overlook on the sides of overlooking your neighbors. So the only concern I would have is that perhaps we have privacy screening of 1.5 meters on both sides of the balcony. Would that be something you'll be okay with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Nellie?
I'm just looking at the drawings, and it looks like the back of the house. protrudes a bit further than the neighbors' properties. Did you talk to neighbors, and were there any issues that, they...
Yeah, we're on good relations with the neighbors, and no one has any issues, as far as I have an understanding.
Okay. All right, nothing further. Let's take this into committee. Someone want to make a comment or a motion? Peter?
Sir Chair, I'm happy to bring a motion. I think the variances are really quite small, and I think that there has been effort in the design of this house to comply with the bylaw. Like, there's no rear yard, or the side yard setbacks are very minor, the changes there. And I think the stepping back to the 2 stories at the rear goes to lessen the impact of the massing. I think it fits in well with the neighborhood. I'm happy to move approval, with the only condition being that the north and south sides of the rear balcony be screened.
Okay. Motion to approve by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much.
And through the chair, the Metrolinx was just advisory.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a break.
So through the chair, we've come to the end of the 2 p.m. time slot anyway, so perfect segue for a little comfort break. The next session of the agenda will start at 3:30.
Okay, perfect time.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Everyone can mute and turn off their videos, please.
Okay, we're back, and we proceed with item number 26, 72 Galley Ave. This is an application to convert the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling into a duplex by constructing a front ground floor addition enclosing the existing porch, a rear 3-story addition with a basement extension below, a rear ground floor deck with stairs, and an east side basement walkout. The existing rear 1-story addition will be demolished, and there will be a total of 2 dwelling units within the building on the lot. The committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property. There is correspondence and support from 70 Galley Avenue, 2 form letters in support from 89 Garden and 98 Galley, and 1 form letter in support from 74 Galley Avenue. We have
Through the chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and we have the agent on the line.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your name and address, please, sir.
Rock Kim, Unit 14236 Young Street.
Thank you. Just hang on a sec. Panel, does anyone need a presentation on this application? We're okay. Sir, we don't need a presentation on this application. It looks fairly straightforward. The panel has read all the material. We're comfortable with the application. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee?
Let me know if you have any question.
Okay, is there any questions of the applicant? We have no questions, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take this into committee. Someone want to make a crack at a motion? Peter?
Sure, Chair. I think this is a good project. The variances are small, and and as particularly the front yard, like there are other examples on this street of houses and buildings that come right up, much closer to the street than this one. And the addition in the back, I think, is tastefully done. I can see no negatives, no negative impacts from approving these variances, so I move approval without condition.
Great, thank you. Mr. Reed moves approval, no conditions. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Volpert? All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir. And item number 27, 34 Pasadena Gardens. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a one-story addition, an attached garage, at the southeast portion of the building. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, correspondence from the TRC, or email correspondence between the agent and TRCA. There is correspondence from Transportation Services and Ravine and Natural Feature Protection.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and the agent is on the line.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, this is Ozren Stambok at 15 Moreland Road.
Okay, just hang on a sec, sir. Similarly, guys, this looks like it's a fairly straightforward application. Does anyone need a presentation? Thank you. Sir, we don't need a presentation on this application. The panel members have read all the material and are familiar with the application. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, I'm here for any questions, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, we're in committee. Does anyone have a motion? Dylan?
The only slight concern I had was the shrinking the side yard setback, but it's really quite minor, and the neighbor doesn't seem to be bothered by it, and there's a lot of space between it and the neighbor. So, other than that, it's a very minor, straightforward proposal. So I move that the variances be approved.
Okay, no conditions. Thank you. Seconder, Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Item number 28, 189 Hudson Drive. This is an application to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a front cantilevered second story, front integral garage, a front covered porch, and a rear basement walkout. The existing rear upper and lower decks in the rear yard will be maintained and unaltered. Committee has before it on this application copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, arborist report, geotechnical letter from Haddad Geotechnical, TRCA email correspondence with the agent, tree preservation plan. We have correspondence from Transportation Services, staff reports from Urban Forestry and Ravine and Natural Features Protection, email correspondence, additional email correspondence from Ravine and Natural Feature Protection. There are 2 form letters in support from 187 and 191 Hudson Drive, and a letter correspondence in concern from 200 Hudson Drive. Do we have the agent?
Through the chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and the agent is on the line.
Good afternoon, Janice Robinson here, representing the owners of 189 Hudson Drive.
Good afternoon. Hang on a second. Similarly, folks, anyone need a presentation on this one? This one, again, seems fairly straightforward.
There was a correspondence.
There was correspondence and concern. Do you want to ask the agent about that?
Yeah, maybe just as a question.
Janice, have you seen the letter in opposition or concern?
Yes, I have. So it's from somebody well down the street. The immediate neighbors on each side have no objection. One of the things that they say in that letter is that the house is going to be double the size. Well, it's not going to be double the size. The existing house is 198 square meters, and the proposed dwelling is 245 square meters. In fact, the proposed dwelling generally follows the existing footprint of the dwelling. So it really is not overdevelopment of the site in any way.
So just to confirm, the front yard setback is pretty much an existing condition?
Yeah, so the front yard setback variance relates to a cantilever portion at the front. If you look at the south elevation, if they could put that up, it's just one front window on the, if you're looking at the house on the left side. And yeah, that shows it well. So if you look on the left side, so it's just that window, that one cantilevered portion there. Otherwise, the front of the garage, the rest of the front of the house all comply with the bylaw. So it's just measured to that cantilever, and all of it is set back more than the existing condition.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, and this property backs onto the belt line, not surprisingly, and this whole area is getting a fair amount of new investment.
Yes.
All right, any further questions? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I see in your package there's emails from TRCA, but I'm just wondering if you had like a formal report that has come in from them.
They don't actually issue a formal report. They stamped the drawing, and the stamped drawing is in the package that you have there. It's kind of a back and forth. It's a development concept application that gets submitted, and then they move to a permit process later. But they've approved the long-term stable slope line, and they're in support of the application. They have no concerns with it, and so they are just waiting for the variances and the permit application to get filed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Just to confirm, so you're aware of the forestry condition number 1 and the advisory memo from the ravines and natural?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, any further questions? All right, let's take this into committee. Who wants to start us off? Zahir.
Thank you, Chair. I think the 4 variances that are being requested are quite reasonable. And I think we also note that there are no conditions or concerns from any of the city staff departments. So I'd like to move a motion to approve. I don't believe they are.
Forestry number 1.
Number 1. And there's a ravine natural features advisory. That's about it. So I'd like to move a motion to approve with forestry 1 condition in mind.
Okay, motion to approve forestry condition number 1 and RP advisory, seconded by, motion by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Mr.
I want to add that it's a very thorough application.
Yeah, it was.
Because impressive and well worth supporting.
Okay. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on to today's final item. Item number 29. 74 Langley Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a 1-story side addition with an integral garage, partial rear additions on the 2nd and 3rd stories, and an oversized driveway. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, tree site plan, and 11 tree photos. Supporting materials from the agent. There is email correspondence from Transportation Services and staff reports from Urban Forestry and Community Planning. Do we have the agent with us?
Through the chair, there are no registered speakers for this item, and the agent is on the line.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Will Hudson of Hudson Architecture. I'm the architect and agent for the owner.
Okay, thank you. We might need a short presentation on this one, sir. You, I think, have probably seen Forestry's recommendation to refuse variance number 1.
It did come in late, so I wasn't actually aware of the refusal. We're aware of the tree, obviously, and the arborist that we've engaged is preparing a plan to deal with it that won't harm the tree. So I think the concrete driveway that's shown in the drawings will not happen. It's clear that they won't support that, but the arborist is confident that we can come up with a solution.
So help me
Sorry, I
out
think
here.
it's worth saying. Sorry, I think it's worth saying too that the cars are currently driving and parking exactly where the driveway is shown. So I don't think there's an assault on the tree right now that, as part of the drawings, that would exceed what's already happening.
So are you keeping variance number 1?
I think we're prepared to keep it, but acknowledging that it will become the variance. We will, when we apply for permit, it will be less. So we'll have more green landscape. It's very likely, from preliminary conversations with the arborist, that we'll end up with some kind of wheel strip and paving that's permeable. So yeah, I don't see any reason to change that variance. If anything, when we apply for permit, it will be less onerous.
But you're keeping the width?
At least for now, I think we will, because the width happens closer to the house. So it widens for the driveway and also for the access path leading along the side of the house.
So if committee were to refuse that application or that variance, would you still be able to proceed?
Yeah, if it was modified, I think if it was refused, you couldn't park a car there. Or it would be problematic if you just said, you know, you can't have, I don't know how you get the car into the garage.
Can I?
Yes, Dylan?
So look, the variance is needed for basically the part of the project that's right at the within the property line and right at the garage, whereas the tree is at the edge of the property. So the driveway before it widens, is that going to be within the usual 3.2 meters that's allowed?
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, we 3.2 would work. Yeah.
Sorry, but is it actually on the site plan? What is the width of the driveway at the street as opposed to when it widens?
2.85.
Right. So if we were to tie this to the site plan, that would basically mean that would alleviate the issue with the variance, because what they're saying is refusing variance number 1, which would normally limit it to 3.2 meters. So if we tie this to the site plan, it would effectively achieve what forestry is asking us, I believe. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So here.
Thank you, Chair. And I think with the same, on the same topic, you're proposing a concrete driveway that leads to the street. I'm just wondering if there's any way, and I'm sure this would also be helpful with regard to the tree, that the roots presumably are below the driveways, to have that driveway be produced in some form of permeable material so that you get percolation. I'm concerned that you've got concrete. Concrete won't allow for any permeability for a fair, substantial part of the root base of the tree.
Yeah, no, as I said, I've had very sort of preliminary last minute discussions with the arborist, and he's confident that a concrete driveway wouldn't be acceptable to forestry. So if verbiage was added or a condition was added that the driveway be of permeable paving, I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? No? All right, sir, is there anything further you'd like to add before we take it into committee for a decision?
I'd just like to say my client was away out of the country, but recently returned, and she has talked to the adjacent neighbors and the neighbor opposite, and there wasn't time to submit letters of support, but they are supportive of the proposal.
And you saw the planning conditions with respect to tying it to elevations?
I did, and I wish I could say something intelligent about that, but I still don't really understand that variance, having talked to the examiner, but we're fine for it to be conditional to the approval if such a thing should happen.
Okay. All right, panel, we'll take this into committee. Dylan?
I'm just wondering if my colleagues agree with my idea of tying it to the site plan.
I think it's fine. I don't know why frankly, they couldn't make the driveway 3.2 all the way. It's all just a matter of bending it so it goes into the garage.
Well, I think it's so that they have the walkway as well.
On the side?
Yeah, so the idea is that they would need the walkway as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think personally, the objective is really to protect the root structure of the tree.
Yeah.
And if you do tie it to plans and make it permeable,
yeah,
I think you're probably satisfied what forestry's concerns might be.
That's what I'm thinking. And then I assume there's still a forestry condition.
Well, is there a condition or?
Yeah, condition 1. If we approve of the variances, they want conditional.
Yes.
They want forestry 1.
So through the chair, just to be clear, so you're contemplating variance number 1 stays the same as is, 3.96 meters, but tying the proposal as a whole to the site plan or just the driveway to the site plan?
Either is fine. The point is the driveway.
Okay. And then adding permeable paving.
That's right.
And then the planning condition tying to elevations,
Yeah.
side elevations.
Yeah, so we're basically tying them to everything.
It's everything to everything. But then I think we still need to do
Urban forestry 1.
urban forestry 1.
Okay.
I was just wondering, if we, as suggested, refuse the variance number 1, it would help with variances 4 and 5. Because there is some lack of
Right.
front yard landscape.
Right.
So,
I mean, it would mean that they would have to do something strange to set up it's basically, the reason for the width is so they can have the walk along the side as well. So if we refuse variance 1, they'd have to do something strange with the driveway and then have some kind of something that wasn't, I'm not sure how they would do that. So I think it.
Peter?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just it's not a huge dimension, right? Like the 3.9 versus 3.2. I don't see there being a huge material difference by getting.
My observation would be is that it's one of those unusual lots where the property line is fairly close to the front of the building.
That's probably why there's the limit.
That's why, we see that so often when there's not much time, and the city boulevard, frankly, takes up most of the front yard. And it looks like the city boulevard has an awful lot of landscaping on it already. So to your point, I think you raise a good point, but I think overall, they're probably fine.
Nicole, do you feel like it would be better to tie it just to the driveway site plan, or is it simpler to just tie it to the site plan?
Through the chair, I suppose it doesn't matter. Probably just the development as a whole then.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, regardless if urban forestry needs something to be moved or they don't support, they have that authority to deny an application anyway.
Okay. So are we ready to make a motion?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to move that we approve the variances with the condition that they be tied to the site plan, and with the planning condition, which is tying it to elevations, and with forestry condition number 1. I think that covers everything. Oh, and, yes, right, and permeable pavers for the driveway.
Okay, motion to approve with those conditions by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval with those conditions, sir. Thank you very much. And with that, we are concluded and we are adjourned at 3:55. Thank you all. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Goal.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Congrats, Goal, her last hearing.
Before 4.